Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking all about a question that all of us writers have at least at some point in our lives. And that is, how the fuck do I make time for my writing? Because like most of you, I've got a lot of shit going on. Over the past maybe 2 years or so, I've really honed in on some tips on how you can make more time for your book, whether that is outlining, writing, editing, publishing, what the fuck ever. So today I'm bringing down my top 5 tips on how you can make more time to write. Number 1, schedule your time. How many times have I mentioned this on my channel? How many times have I talked about this? Once, twice, 10 million times? So I'm not going to go super in depth. I actually have a whole video about how I plan out my time, so I will have it linked below. Just keep in mind that that video is not really up to date anymore because my planning system doesn't really look the same. And with that video, I'm going to link some others for you to watch just to kind of give you an idea of different scheduling options, just in case you are trying to either revamp a already existing system, or if you don't have a system in place at all. Wherever you're at, those videos got you covered. And the really hard thing about scheduling your time is a lot of writers are either stressed or overwhelmed or just scared at the idea of scheduling your time. And I think one of the reasons is that there are a lot of systems to choose from. Some people use bullet journals, others use agendas, planners, apps like Notion, Google Calendar, other time blocking sites. Some people use a physical calendar. I could go on. There are just so many planning systems and so many ways that you could schedule your time that it's really, really overwhelming. So assuming that you are someone who is just like starting off and you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, I need something to start out. Start out with something that's going to be easy for you. When I first started out to plan my time, I had a planner. And honestly, what this boils down to is you just need to experiment with some different options. Again, I honestly would just recommend to start off with a planner or an agenda and see what works best for you. But regardless of how you do it, you just need to make sure that you are planning out your time, because the only way that you are going to be able to outline, write, and edit a book is if you plan out your time. That's just how it is. And number 2, you need to make sure that you are cutting out the filler time in your day. So when you are planning out your time, you need to think about the times in the day where you ain't doing shit, where you are watching Netflix, when you're watching YouTube, when you're just watching TV, I don't fucking know. When you're doing those things where you know you should be doing something else, but instead you're being lazy and watching Netflix on the couch. Now, I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect at this. Fuck no, I'm really bad at this sometimes. Now, I'm not saying you can't do this at all, because you can, and you absolutely should, because rest time is super fucking important. We will get to that in the next point. But if you want to write, a great way to get more time out of your schedule to write is to cut out this time. And the easiest way to do this, at least at first, is by time blocking. In my opinion, if you are wanting to cut out filler time in your day, what I would recommend to do is start off by time blocking your day. And once you've gotten to a point where you've gotten the filler time out of your day and you think that you can do it without time blocking, that's what I would do. That's what I did, because I time blocked for a while, specifically so that I wouldn't spend all day watching Netflix. But then once I got to a point where I didn't really need to time block anymore, I stopped. But you don't have to time block in order to get the most out of your day. For example, the way I do it right now is on Google Calendar. I have my time. I do very vague like time blocking. It's not even time blocking at this point. This can be very helpful because while you're not exactly time blocking, you can at least look at it and just be like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to do some sort of work, and you could have a to-do list to pick from is a method that I like to do. But if you are still trying to cut back on your time, what I would recommend for you to do is somehow track how you are spending your time in 1 week. The easiest way, in my opinion, to do this is just to use a time blocking system like Google Calendar, but you can use whatever the fuck you want, and track how you spend your time in a week. And do not try and change any of your habits. Do not consciously try to write more. Do it just like how you would for any other week. And at the end of the week, look back on this and think, is this what I want? Is this the amount of time I want each week to write? And look at those times that we could call filler times. How many times are you watching Netflix each week? And for how many hours? And I would make a list of things that you consider filler times. And once you look at your calendar and see how much time you are spending on not working, you might want to have some comfort food. I would recommend chocolate, pizza. If you're of age, maybe you want some alcohol. If you have pets, cuddle a pet. If your self-esteem plummets, don't worry, I feel you. Ask a friend to hype you up. But seriously, don't be too hard on yourself and look at it and think, okay, how much time do I want to cut down? And then slowly cut it down. Do you hear me? Do not try and cut it all out in 1 week because you're going to fail and you're going to feel awful about it. I say that because I failed and I felt awful about it. Instead, let's say that you had 40 hours of filler time in 1 week and your ultimate goal at the very end, not for next week, but at the very end, is to cut that figure down to 20 hours. Okay, so then this next week, you're going to cut it down to 38 hours. That means you're going to take 2 hours out of filler time. 2 hours ain't shit, alright? That's fine, that is totally doable. Then the next week, cut out 2 more hours. And then the week after that, cut out 2 more hours. And keep on doing that until you can reach your ultimate goal, and keep on doing this until you reach your ideal level of both productivity and rest time. Now, don't completely take out your rest time, people. Still have some rest time in there, but recognize when it's rest time and when it's filler time. And this leads me to point number 3, which is make sure that you're taking breaks. This is where your relaxing time and your self-care time takes into play. I do want to do a full video about self-care and really taking care of yourself, so stay tuned. So many videos to come. But if you try and be productive every second of every day, you are going to burn out very quickly. And let me just say that burnout recovery is a very long process, and you would have been way better off just taking that rest time versus letting yourself burn out. Trust me, I have felt burnout from productive things so many times, you guys. So no, don't do that to yourself, all right? Just take that rest time and prevent burnout from happening. And yes, this does include a full day of not doing anything. For some people like me, a full day of not doing shit, or 3 hours each night of not doing shit, is gonna sound like so much wasted time. Like, oh my god. But think of it like this. You are spending that time not to waste it, but to allow yourself to recharge, to allow yourself to take a break so that tomorrow you can hit back your to-do list with, that force and with that productivity and motivation, because you allowed yourself that time to rest and to recuperate. And on the flip side, some of you guys might be thinking, 3 hours a day, that's like nothing. What? And let me just say, you don't have to do the same thing I do, because I do 3 hours each day, so that's why I say 3 hours. You can do how many hours you want, whatever works best for you. If you want to make time to write a book, you can't just spend your entire day watching Netflix. I mean, you can, but I don't know how you're going to get a book written. So just remember that you are taking out that time where you wouldn't have really been doing much to writing a book, because, that's the goal. That's why you're watching this video in the first place. And on top of all of this, most people will also take breaks throughout the day, which I highly encourage for you to do, because that is going to make you a lot more productive. Most people I know use the Pomodoro technique, which is a technique where you work for 30 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, then you repeat this for 4 times, and then you take a longer 15 or 30-minute break. And then you just kind of repeat that until you work through your things for the day. I used to do this when I was in my freshman year of high school, but I don't do this anymore just because it doesn't really work for me. Personally, how I do this is I have a to-do list for the day, and once I complete a task, I take a break, and the break really just depends on what the task is. For example, sometimes my task is something really long, like to edit a YouTube video. For reference, it can take me anywhere from 3 to 6 hours to edit one video. So after that, I usually take an hour or sometimes even 2 hours off, because that was just a lot. But other times my to-dos for the day is something really easy, like to clean off my desk, in which case I'll take like a 5-minute break and then I'll get back to work. Alternatively to planning, if you want to incorporate breaks in your day, is to do more set intervals, but a little bit longer if the Pomodoro technique does not work best for you. This is what I used to do. I would work for 2 hours, and then I would take an hour break, and then I'd do it again until I hit the end of the day. And then I would still take the 3 hours off at the end of the day, so that I still had that long period of rest time. But however you do it, it is usually very wise to take breaks throughout your day. That way, you're not exhausting yourself with your work. And number 4, have accountability buddies. So I have a lot of writer friends, and if you're watching this video, you probably already know that the writing community is a very good place to be. So with some of your writer friends, try to make some accountability buddies. So what you can do is just message a writer friend and be like, hey, today I'm going to write 10 pages of my book. If I do not write 10 pages, you have full permission to yell at me. Or you could do something else, but that's what I do. So sometimes writer buddies will check in with you throughout the day just to make sure that you are staying on task. That is what I usually do with my writer buddies, or other times they will just check in with you at like the end of the day. Pro tip, if you are going to have a writer buddy and they are not in your time zone, note what times and which time zones you're going to check in, because I've definitely like checked in with my writer buddies late because I forgot that they were in a different time zone. So pay attention to time zones, they kind of matter. And with your accountability buddies, make sure that it is not one-sided. So if they check in with you, offer to check in with them as well. And if they're not doing anything that day really, offer to check in with them a different day where they are writing, and feel free to have accountability buddies like check in with you even when you're not writing. Like I've had my accountability buddies check in with me when I'm writing an essay for my English class. And to be honest, I'm more likely to procrastinate on an English essay than on editing my book, so that's probably a good thing. And in my opinion, the reason that accountability buddies work so well is that telling one of your friends that you haven't been doing jack shit for a whole day is really fucking embarrassing. Unless it's a rest day, then that is allowed. But if it's not a rest day, it's really fucking embarrassing. So I don't want to tell one of my friends that, hey, I didn't do anything today. I suck. You want to yell at me now? Like, no, bitch, I'm gonna do the fucking work. So trust me when I say that accountability buddies, they help so much. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And if you want me to be your accountability buddy, feel free to message me on Instagram or Twitter or something. I'm always down. And lastly, number 5, write what you're passionate about. This tip may seem very weird because like it's not like the other tips, but I think it's something very important, and I think it's something that is both obvious, but it's something that not a lot of writers think about. So let's talk about it. Listen, writing a book is really fucking hard, and so is editing. Trust me, I've written a few books at this point, and I'm editing one right now, and it is a lot of fucking work. So to illustrate this point for you, I'm going to tell you a little story. It's what I do best, so sit back, relax, enjoy a little story time. So I think I was in my 8th grade year of middle when I started to get a lot more serious with my writing. I was honestly really depressed at the time, so I was looking for an outlet for my depression. So I started writing this book called Sensatilla. Yes, I recognize this is an awful name for a book. Don't yell at me. I was in 8th grade. I think I'm excused. So I honestly don't remember that much about this book other than the fact that it was a young adult sci-fi dystopian book. And I had this idea for years, but I just never really had the courage to write it. This was back when I was still writing a bunch of fan fiction, and I was slowly starting to get away from that just because I was getting a little bored of the fanfic, to be honest. So I made a very vague outline for the book and I started writing it. The problem is, anytime I went to write this book, I didn't want to, and I didn't get why. And as months went on, I realized that back when I wrote fanfic, I loved it. It was just such an outlet for me, and I was looking for that with Sensatilla, but it didn't work, and I was so confused why, because writing is what I love to do. It's always been an outlet for me. And as time went on, I realized I just wasn't passionate about Sensatilla. It wasn't a book I really wanted to be telling, and sci-fi and dystopian are definitely genres that I can appreciate. I've read quite a few dystopian and sci-fi books, but it just wasn't something that I was super interested in, and I was kind of forcing myself to write it. And because of that, when I did go to write, I wasn't writing a ton. So I decided to take a small break and try writing something else. So I decided to take one of my fanfics and turn it into an original book. This was an idea that I had like back when I just really just started writing that fanfic, and I think I was in 6th grade when I started it. So at that point I already had the idea for this book for like 2 years, and this was Lost in Blue, the book that I'm working on right now. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was just so in love with the concept. So I sat down with the very big outline once again, and I started writing the book. I was so shocked at how much stuff I was able to get done. For reference, with Sensatilla, I could maybe get, I don't know, like 1,000 or 2,000 words done in one session. With Lost in the Blue, I was cranking out like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 words per session. I'm not saying it was good, but I wrote it. That's what counts. And I was seriously just so amazed with how much fun I was having, and I finally got to that point, just like how when I used to write fanfic, where it was just an outlet for me. It made me so happy, and I just noticed a huge change in my mood. And I realized that the reason that I hated writing, the reason that I didn't ever want to write when I was writing that sci-fi book, was because I wasn't passionate about it. and your passion for a project can drastically change how much you enjoy writing it, obviously, and how much time you make for that book. Because when I started to write Lost in Blue, I realized that I could make a lot more time for writing than I was when I wrote Sensatilla, and guess what? It was because I was really passionate about Lost in Blue and I just wanted to write it all the time. That's all I wanted to do. And this isn't to say that I'm always passionate about writing or editing Lost in Blue, because I'm not. Sometimes it's awful. Sometimes I would rather do my boring ass accounting work than to work on Lost in Blue, and honestly, some days I do just that. But a lot of the time, I sit down and I shut the fuck up and I work on it because I'm passionate about it, because I love the story, because I want the story to be told, because I'm in love with the characters and the plot and the romance, and I'm just passionate about it. So the moral of this story is that finding a book that you're passionate about can seriously revolutionize how productive you are and how much time you are able to make out time for your book. So really think about your book project and think, is this something that I'm passionate about? And if you've lost passion for a project, it is completely okay to work on something else. And honestly, I could totally see myself working on a different version of Sensatilla. Definitely would be renamed, for sure. First thing I would do in the future. So that being said, that is the end of this obnoxiously long video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found some helpful tips. If you have any questions about this, or if you have any requests for future topics, feel free to comment below. Let me know what you want to see. I would love to make it happen. And with that being said, that's all that I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up and hit that big red subscribe button down below and turn on those post notifications so that you know every time that I upload a new video. I upload videos once a week on Thursdays, so be here so you don't miss it, because I'm a delight. And yeah, I think that's all that I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments down below what your tips are for making time to write. I would love to hear them. And that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video.